Hey everybody, this is Nate and welcome to the Preuss Sports Podcast March edition with today's topic of MLB spring training. So, just a few days ago, spring training has started and the Padres have been looking pretty good in spring training. And with a pretty good offseason, especially with extensions of Yu Darvish, then you get the free agent signings of Xander Bogaerts, Nelson Cruz, Matt Carpenter, and a bunch of other players to minor league contracts. Everything is looking pretty good for the Padres with the return of Fernando Tatis Jr. in late May, no, not late May, late April. Everything is looking up on the horizon for the Padres after a really good season, after making the NLCS after nearly 22 years. Not 22 years, 24 years. After 24 years since that World Series run in 98. So, what is there to look for in spring training? So, for spring training, it's usually just usually if it's for the starters, it's usually for them to kind of warm up before the start of the regular season. But for others, it's a chance to carve a place within the team, within the first team. So a lot of times they'll actually invite minor leaguers within their farm system. And the Padres, they've actually invited the number one prospect within their farm system, Jackson Merrill. They've also called up. They also invited this one kid they got from this one kid. He's a screwballer named Brent Honeywell. He was a former top prospect with the Tampa Bay Rays, and he throws a pretty good screwball. So we have that to look up to. But the problem has been he's always been injury prone. So for every player that has been invited, they have a chance to either carve out a place as maybe a starting player, considering that Tatis isn't going to be starting in the outfield for a chunk of games. So you can always just carve a little place, carve a place in the lineup if you do bat really good. And one guy that I do think could have that possibility is either Jose Azocar or David Dahl. And if not, there are also you can just carve your place within the bench. And there's a pretty good amount of players that could actually have a pretty good spring training and get called up to the major leagues. One player that I do think does have that possibility is 23-year-old Mexican prospect Tirso Ornelas. Tirso has been all right in the minor league level. He's a pretty good he had a really good time within the Mexican Winter League, hitting 384 batting average, and a couple homers and a bunch of RBIs, and he's pretty good. Just as his only problem is just that he kind of sells himself out to try and get as much power as he can with his swing. Also, he's a lefty batter, 23 years old, from Mexico. But anyway, there's also going to be a lot more opportunity because with the WBC coming up, a lot of players within our team are going to be going, and a lot of them notable players are going to be Manny Machado, Juan Soto, Nick Martinez, Yu Darvish, Ha-Seong Kim, and newly acquired DH Nelson Cruz, who is going to be the coach of the Dominican Republic. With those players out of the team for a while, this can prove a lot more opportunity to players like David Dahl, Jose Azocar, Tirso Ornelas, Efrain Contreras, Brent Honeywell, Jay Groom, players that can show their worth, and they can show that they deserve a part of either the bench, the starting lineup, the rotation, or some can even at least like get into the bullpen. There have been a lot of times where players who were starters in the minor leagues, they converted themselves into relief pitchers or even closers, because one player that actually did do that was I think Blake Trinan. Blake Trinan, who was actually pretty good as a starting pitcher within college. He actually converted himself into a closer later in his days at a college, and he got drafted as a closer, and now he has had many great very great seasons with the Athletics, and then later now he is playing for the Dodgers. So yeah, you never know where your opportunities can come from, especially in spring training. But as long as you can as long as they can take these opportunities, they have a chance of making it into the major leagues. And a lot of people, and now it's especially now it's just to see what works and what doesn't. It's usually, well, spring training doesn't really have as much value as doesn't really have that much value in what you think the team is going to be later on in the season, because a lot of the times, some teams within the MLB that had bad spring training records, they usually they can play good, and some even make it to the playoffs. But usually it's spring training is just for you to look at what works and what doesn't. If you're, and just like fix what doesn't work. If your swing has a bit of some, if your swing just doesn't have a, that right path, and it keeps on getting on top of the ball or going under the ball, so that it either rolls on the ground or it just gets popped up where the catcher can catch it, then usually you just try and look for ways to fix the mechanics of your swing and manage to make good contact to barrel up the ball. Or if you're a pitcher that has a pitch that it doesn't really work, but you kind of want it to work, so you change the grip or you change how you throw it, or something. Or actually, what happened with left-handed pitcher Ryan Weathers within our system last year, he had a pretty bad minor league season. He had above a 5 ERA, not that good, but he is only 23 years old, and he has just changed his windup. And he's been looking pretty good with it. Even though he had three runs earned against him against the Mariners, that was just a fielding error by Juan Soto. But basically, it's just that now he's been pretty good. He's been able to control the ball. He's able to strike people out, and also he's been able to hit at least between mid 90s and 98. So just right now, spring training is just for opportunities for these young players, for these minor league players that wanna play in the majors, and that's it, and that's about it. But also, another thing to look forward to is a week from now, from this recording of March 1st, the WBC is gonna be played. And there are going to be a lot of super teams, especially with the U.S. and the Dominican Republic. So the WBC is going to be held over a couple of weeks within different locations around the world, most notably in Japan, Hong Kong, and the U.S. So the stadiums for the WBC are. Wait, let me check. Are going to be in Taichung, Tokyo, Phoenix, and Miami. So the pools for the teams are going to be, so Pool A, which is going to be played in Taichung, Taiwan, not Hong Kong. I'm sorry. China is going to be Chinese Taipei, the Netherlands, Gulwa, Italy, and this is, so it's just like, and to be determined based on this WBC qualifier. And Pool B. Actually, no. Let's take a look at some other teams. This other pool. Pool C, which contains the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and Canada, Mexico, the USA, Colombia, and Colombia. And Great Britain. So that is Pool C, which is going to be played at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm pretty excited for Team USA. Team USA has an all-star team. You've got JT Realmuto at catcher. You get Trey Turner at shortstop, Nolan Arenado at third. You get Paul Goldschmidt at first. The second baseman is I think it is Tim Anderson. Left field is going to be Aaron Judge. Center is going to be Mike Trout, and right field is Mookie Betts. And this is just like that is a nasty lineup. You have all-stars, MVPs, World Series champs. But then you look at Team Dominican Republic, who have Manny Machado. You get J-Rod, Juan Soto, Jose Ramirez. You get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You get, I think it is Salvador Perez. No, that he's Venezuelan. It's just like, but either way, this Team Dominican Republic team is nasty. You get Sandy Alcantara, who just won the Cy Young, and it's looking pretty good. And you also got a sleeper in Mexico. Mexico, usually a lot of people don't really think about Mexico within the WBC or within baseball, but they have a pretty good starting rotation. A rotation that contains Southpaw Julio Urias, pitcher for the Angels, Patrick Sandoval, and World Series champ, Jose Urquidy. Then you get a pretty good players within the lineup, such as Luis Urias, Alejandro Kirk, Alex Verdugo, and it's just like and Randy Orozarena. So you got a lot of like pretty not notable, but still some names in Major League Baseball. And yeah, so it's just like it's very exciting because the WBC, the last time it happened was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, the WBC happened, and the boys in red, white, and blue took it home. And it's looking like it's either them or the Dominican Republic coming back and winning it all. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know. Baseball, you never know. Maybe the USA, well, probably the USA or Dominican Republic win it. But you can also have teams like Puerto Rico, Cuba, Colombia, Venezuela. Venezuela has a pretty good team too. You get Ronald Acuña Jr. You get Luis Arraez. You get some pretty good Major League names. And I think that's about it. It's pretty exciting, but at least it won't cut into opening day. And in later news, Joe Musgrove, starter for hometown hero for the Padres, he has fractured his left toe. Apparently, he was weight training with a kettlebell and he dropped it on his toe. So now it is fractured. Is it anything serious? Not really. He might miss opening day, but Joe has a very high pain tolerance, and a fractured toe is not as much as a problem as any other injury. But he's still going to be out for a bit of time. But I don't think that is anything to really worry about. And then leaves the question: who is going to be the opening starter for the Padres? For me, I think it's probably going to be Yu Darvish again, because you had a really good season. He has been consistently one of the better pitchers within MLB. He has been consistently really good for the Padres. Not really good, but still good. So I think that Bob Melvin would start him as the opening day pitcher. But also, so there's a lot of things to look out for in this season. Maybe we'll see one of our rookies. I'm hoping Jackson Merrill, but it's just like could carve a way into to being one of the more exciting young prospects. He already is a really exciting prospect, but we'll see. So, with that comes an end to this podcast, and I'll see you next time.